Good day everyone, welcome to ITS 208 and the CSC 209. This is Graphics and Visual Computing. My name is Julius, your instructor. Today we're going to have a pre-recorded class to begin our lessons about the introduction to Graphics and Visual Computing. So be sure to watch the entire video, listen, and understand the lessons attentively. Remember, after this class, there will be learning assessment and assignment to be posted. So without further ado, let's get started. If you have any questions or comments, share it with the class. Comment down your question to our Facebook group post or send in your questions through our respective Facebook chat groups. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the introduction to graphics and visual computing, and particularly we'll be talking about what is graphics design, designer versus artist, the do's and don'ts for graphics design, and what do graphic designers do. Alright, so let's take a moment to read this following saying. A picture speaks 1,000 words. Maybe most of you have already heard it before. This is a saying that goes back for a while. A good picture indeed can convey information by itself without having dozens of lines of explanation in it. Okay? For a photographer to capture a good picture, he has to wait patiently for the exact moment to get a certain composition. In designing, however, the process of conveying visual information is a lot easier. A designer can just produce the visual elements necessary for his or her composition. A good design means good visual communication. So basically, if you've already noticed, graphics designing, or this course, is all about visual communication. We are supposed to convey information or convey message visually. Okay? Much like how a photographer have to wait for the exact moment to get the certain composition or to get the message that he want to convey. For us graphic designers, we are just going to produce the elements necessary for us to be able to convey the information that we are trying to give. All right. So indeed, a picture speaks 1,000 words. This is going to be the foundation where we are going to build our career in graphics design. All right. So before anything else, let's begin with a simple activity. This is called "Do I Have What It Takes?" All right. So let's take a look at the photo. What does it says? Okay, try to take a look at the photo and then try to read what does it says. Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds. All right, done? Okay. One of the attributes of a good designer is being able to think visually. This means a designer can visualize an object or an idea without actually seeing it. Okay, this is one of the impressions when learning graphic designing, that makaingon ta na maybe I'm not good. I shouldn't be taking graphic designing lesson because first and foremost, I'm not really good in drawing. Okay, that is one of the perhaps one of the impressions that people usually get or students usually get when learning graphic design. However, in this activity, let's understand whether do you have what it takes to become a designer. Again, let's look back to the photo again and let's see, what do you think? Okay? Did you read "think outside the box"? All right? If so, how sure are you that it does say think outside the box, where we can only see hink, outside the, and then box. All right, we cannot see the T in here, we cannot see the letter E in here, and we cannot see if it's really letter B. Okay, so although a lot of letters are missing, you are able to read it, think outside the box, as it is. Why is that so? Because you think visually. Although we can only see some of the letters, but our mind creates the letters before and after each words. All right? So that is thinking visually. Although what you exactly see is different, in your mind you are already creating something else. Okay? Now, going back, if you read think outside the box, then you have what it takes to be a designer. Okay? Of course, a lot more is needed to become a designer, but you already have what it takes. All right. So let's discuss our course description. It says graphics and visual computing. Um, let's divide these two and let's try to understand the definition individually. Graphics and visual computing. So for graphics, let's be more specific for computer graphics. Okay? Computer graphics is a subfield of computer science which studies methods for digitally synthesizing and manipulating visual content. This is according to Wikipedia. And visual computing is a generic term for all computer science disciplines dealing with images and 3D models such as computer graphics, image processing, visualization, computer vision, virtual and augmented reality, and video processing. This is also according to Wikipedia. Now, if we're going to read these definitions, it gives broad meaning to our course description, right? However, if we're going to understand each definition thoroughly, we'll be able to perhaps shrink it down to simpler terms. And that would be this course is about graphic design. Do you agree? So, graphics and visual computing, those definitions that we just talked about, that we just read, it can be summarized into just two words. It's all about graphic design. Okay, it's composed of it contains or it is composed of computer graphics and visual communication or visual computing rather. Okay, so now let us understand what exactly is graphic design. Graphic design is the art or profession of visual communication that combines images, words, and ideas to convey information to an audience. Okay? According to Soul Base, design is thinking made visible. Right? Design is thinking made visible. So whatever it is that you're thinking, you are trying to make it visible for others. Okay? That is graphic design. Going back, visual communication, convey information. These are the two main, perhaps, description about graphic design. It's about visual communication, and the purpose is to convey information. Okay, so let's understand visual communication and convey information deeper. Visual communication is the way of exchanging ideas and information in forms that is visible. It is a broad field that includes signs, drawings, illustration, advertisements, animations, industrial designs, infographics, and other graphic design. Okay, so visual communication, it is um, giving information or idea through elements, the graphical elements. All right. So there are lots of visual communications that we can, or let's say visual communication tools that we can see around all around us. Okay. So let's say, for example, you are trying to cross a street. Okay. How do you know that it is the right place to cross a street? If you will see the crossing sign or pedestrian crossing sign, I'm not really sure what you call that, but if you see those signs, then that'll be the place for you to safely cross the highway, perhaps. Okay, so that is visual communication. Convey information. It is the way of imparting on or communicating ideas effectively. All right. So by the definition itself, it says that is imparting or communicating ideas. Okay. So basically, in graphic design, we are trying to impart or communicate the idea visually. So instead of saying there are lots of ways in how we are going to communicate the idea or views. All right, we can either talk to each other, you can either send it, or you can either communicate through music. That's why lots of artists, or let's say musical artists, write songs and sings them. Okay, that is one way of communicating. There are a lot of people who are using telephones to communicate. There are a lot of people who are also using, um, let's say, video calls to communicate. For graphic designers, we communicate with other people in conveying information through graphic design. All right, through visual elements. So basically, graphic design is about visual communication. In graphic designing, your aim is to create something that is pleasing to the eye, gets attention, and conveys message. All right, now that we already know what graphic design is all about, let's understand our aim as graphic designers. Our aim is to create something that it's not just about conveying message, but it has to be pleasing to the eye and it gets audience attention. Okay, so let's talk more about it. Pleasing to the eye. This means being creative in using the visual elements needed for the information you are trying to convey. Being creative, however, means there are principles in designing you ought to follow to have a good design. Okay, so this is a little bit in depth um, part of the definition. What does graphic designers do? Okay, pleasing to the eye. Our main goal is to make sure that the people will enjoy what they are seeing. All right, because more people tends to understand easier through visual communication. If they enjoyed what they are seeing, then they will understand easier. All right, so that is pleasing to the eye. Second, gets attention. A good design can make visual communication even more effective. People tend to be more interested to attractive designs. Getting people's attention first is very important in visual communication. All right, so the definition speaks for itself. Our main goal in graphic design is to make sure that our work is not just it's not able to convey the message, but it is able to convey the message through um, by making sure that all the design elements are pleasing to the eye. In that way, we'll be able to get the audience attention. Okay. All right. Next, let's talk about designer versus artist. So there's been lots of questions regarding how do you really call yourself? Am I going to become a graphic designer, or am I going to become a graphic artist? So let's understand first the difference between a designer and an artist, and what we are supposed to do while learning our which of the two, which of these two we are ought to become once we finish or once we're done with this course. Are we going to become a designer or an artist? There are two ways one can call themselves when doing a composition. Artist. Artist tends to express their emotion, their mood, their ideas, and their views while letting the viewers interpret their work. They mostly don't care about what other people will think about their work as long as they are able to express his or her feelings through it. Okay? From the definition says, artist doesn't really care on what other people will think about their work so long as they were able to express their feelings, their emotion, their mood. Okay, so the only approval that they want is their own. Okay, they don't necessarily have to rely on the approval of a client. They don't necessarily have to submit or um, acknowledge approval of any other people, but only for themselves. So long as they were able to communicate what their emotion, then it will be fine for them. So that is how artists roll. Okay, just like there are lots of artists, right? Like musical artists. They write the song, they sing it. People might like it or not. It would be totally up to them. The artist doesn't really care for that so long as they were able to sell it. They were able to express their feelings. So same thing with graphic artists. They're just going to make things or make compositions according to what they felt. Designer, however, make sure that their work will sell. It's their job to carefully enhance and organize visual elements and religiously apply the design principles to make sure it is pleasing to look at, not just to themselves, but for everyone. Okay, so this is where designers and artists differ. while artists make sure that they were able to convey information or convey their feelings, emotions, and without the approval of any other people, designers have to work with something that will be approved by most people. Designers make sure that their works will sell. Mabaligya nila ang ilahang trabaho. However, what the designer does is to make sure that everything is organized according to the design principles and all the visual elements will be enhanced. Okay, what are these design principles? We're going to talk or we're going to discuss them on our future lessons. Okay, do you see the difference now between artist and designer? So let's just say artist walay pake sa ibang tao, so long as they can express their feelings. Designer will have to require, will have to um, abide to the ideal from what the client wants and what is the best for everybody. Okay, so this one. Graphic designing means visual problem solving. It is the job of a designer to make sure to provide solution to any visual challenges on a design. Okay, so by the end of this course, I want everybody to not just become an artist. Well, I encourage you to become an artist, but we are ought to become a designer. Okay, because that's what make us professional in what we do. This is where we're going to earn from our skills. Okay, so again, from this point and on, our focus is to become a designer. But I still encourage you to become an artist. That way, you'll be able to express yourself just in case you wanted to become a graphic artist. Okay. All right. Now going back, it is the job of a designer to make sure to provide solutions to any visual challenges on the design. So what are these visual challenges? First, cluttered design. Okay, so let's take, before anything else, let's take a look at the photo that we have right here. Okay, designs with more font faces and font weights used more than necessary can be messy. Improper alignment can be disorienting too. This illustration can be pleasing to the artist who made it, but there is no guarantee that most people will like it. Okay, so going back to this picture, it is clear that it is made by an artist, not a designer. Okay, because there are lots of font weights and font faces that are being used. So let's take, for example, this one, graphic. It uses a certain font with different colors, right? We have black and white. And then in this part, the artist used another font again. And in this part, there are just lots of fonts that are being used. Okay. Another thing, the alignment. The alignment is improper. The alignment here is it's warped, and then the alignment here has different directions. Okay. Now again, this could be a work of an artist. Now the artist who made it loved it. However, there is no guarantee that most people will like it. Okay, maybe you like it, but for the rest of the people, for the rest of the audience, they may not like what they are saying. Okay, so this is an example of a clutter design. So what graphic designers do is to make sure that this will be fixed. Clutter designs must be fixed. Okay, that is what a good graphic designer will do. Second, another visual problems are illegible fonts. When you say illegible fonts rather, these are the fonts that cannot be read easily. One of the purposes of a good graphic design is to convey a message. Using fonts that are hard to read will just spoil the message your design is trying to convey. Okay, so although going back to the introduction to our introduction rather, that the picture speaks 1,000 words. However, it will just totally um, lock up the idea once we already added words to our graphics design. However, whenever we added words to it, we have to make sure that we are using legible fonts or those fonts that are easy to read. Okay. Another thing that a graphic designer should focus or should fix is the legible fonts. And lastly, and this could be the worst problem a design may encounter, is the confusion between the message and the picture used in the design. In other words, wrong message. Okay, let's take a look at these photos that we have right here. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so in this part, it is the front page of the Daily Telegraph publication. All right, so what we can see here is the Queen for UK, or the British Queen, or the Queen of England rather, and then the Princess and some other woman. Okay. However, if you're going to read at the headline, it says witchcraft threat to children. So what's the problem with that? So, well, the picture shows about the royal family in the England. The title here talks about witchcraft. So the message now, if we're not going to read the entire thing, the message has changed. Instead of talking about the royal family, it talks about the witchcraft being threat to the children. So how do we fix this? So we can either, of course, we can separate the picture if this is not about, or we can either change the picture. We can just remove the picture, perhaps. If the Daily Telegraph will really want to talk about witchcraft, then perhaps we can add pictures about witchcraft. Or if the Daily Telegraph wants the front page to talk about the royal family, then let's talk about the royal family. We can either change the title here to the title, which is all about the royal family, right? Second, all right, let's take a look at the second photo. Burger King. This is a what do you call that? A sign from Burger King fast food chain. I'm not real sure. Okay, so SpongeBob is here hiring managers. All right. So supposedly, what Burger King is trying to say is that SpongeBob is here. SpongeBob is in the Burger King, and at the same time, they are hiring manager. However, the way that the words are being connected to each other, we can read. We can probably say that SpongeBob is here hiring managers. Right. So the message has changed. Instead of SpongeBob is in the Burger King, and Burger King is hiring manager. So how we can fix this? So we can either separate them with lines, or we can either group SpongeBob is here on a list, let's say a bullet, and then let's add bullet for hiring manager. All right, there are lots of ways we can fix that. Okay, next, attention, toilet only for disabled, elderly, pregnant children. Okay, so what the message is trying to say is that this toilet is supposed to be for disabled people, elderly people, pregnant people, and children. However, since the problem is they write these four groups of people without any separation between them. Okay, so if we're going to read it, it will say that this toilet is only for disabled, elderly, pregnant children. So this toilet is only for children who are disabled, elderly, and pregnant. Right? So it's very confusing. So how we can fix this? We can either add just comma between the disabled and elderly and pregnant children. We can either add comma between them, or we can add slash. Right? In that way, we'll be able to separate these groups of people to make sure that the message that we are trying to convey is still there. Okay. On the fourth part rather, it's all about a Prada poster. Okay, so we all know, maybe some of us know that Prada is known for their handbags products. But here we cannot see any bags at all. Right? So the message has changed. Right here, take action, take control, quit school. All right, is that a good message to convey? All right, so instead of the message being um, encouraging to people to take action, take control, and quit smoking, here, smoking not our future. So basically, it advocates people to quit smoking and then encourages to go to school. But since the quit school are perfectly aligned to each other, the message has changed to take action, take control, quit school. So the message has changed. All right, next. This is the logo for the 2012 Olympics held at London. So in this particular photo, I've done some research on it, and there are just lots of areas where people disagree with this logo. First is for the religious groups. The 2012 are written not really in a what do you call this? Dili siya klaro, di ba? Right? However, religious groups claim that there is a hidden word which is Zion, di ba? Z-I-O-N. All right? So that is one of the reason why it is very what do you call it? This design has lots of problem. Second, the colors, right? London is known for being a happy place, right? Or lively place, a wild place, kumbaga, live city. However, the color just emphasizes like mura kuno siya og pag zumba, pang beach, right? And it looks like it is coming from the 80s or 70s, all right? But there are just tons of reason why this logo is na kuno siya yung mga problema. Okay? And then last, it says here, I heart London, but the picture here is the Eiffel Tower, which is located in Paris, France. All right? So the message has changed. All right? So these are some of the, let's say, visual challenges that every designer or graphic designer must fix and must avoid when doing graphics design. These are just some of the possible challenges a designer must look into carefully when designing. A good designer will always make sure every visual element will perfectly connect to each other. All right. So now let's talk about the do's and don'ts when in graphic design. So there are lots of reasons, or there are lots of things that every designer must think about when they start doing graphic design. Okay. While most people will think that having an existing talent in art, ability to buy expensive design equipment are must have to become a designer, the truth is these are not really necessary to become an effective one. Here are some of the things one should think about when learning graphic design. First, you don't need to be good at drawing. Okay, designers don't need to be good at drawing. Graphic designers are visually creative. There is no need for any hand-drawn input since everything will be done through photo editing software using computers. You only need to be able to think visually and be very creative in doing it. Okay? Example, I am not a good in art. I'm not a good artist. I cannot draw very much. Maybe back when I was a kid, I know how to draw, but since the moment that I discovered graphic designing, quit drawing and just start doing things on the computer, graphic designing. Okay, so again, to become a designer, you don't necessarily have to be good at drawing. So this is one of the impression that people get when they learn graphic design. Oh, dili ra ba ko maayo mo drawing? Dili ko pwede mag-graphic design. So that's not true. The only thing that you need is you have to be visually creative, because basically you are designing through your mind, not using your hand, right? Second, no need to spend a lot of money for expensive equipment. Okay, this is true. Most designing software does not require a very high level of equipment specification. Many designing software are cheap, and some of them are even free. Okay, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and most Adobe software are free for 1 month, and then you'll be paying every other month. And there are lots of designing software out there that are just free. Okay, and then for the computer or for the equipments, these software does not really require you to buy high-tech nga mga laptops or high specification nga mga laptop. Okay? Next, no need to spend a lot of years in studying. Okay, so this is a little controversial. Anybody can learn graphic designing without spending too much time and money learning it in schools. There are a lot of tutorials and other learning platforms that offer graphic design course online. However, Learning the fundamentals of it at a proper school or university makes you become a professional at it. You will be more entitled to call yourself a professional graphic designer. More companies will prefer you compared to designers who learn graphic designing by themselves. Okay? So, yes, while it is true that you don't need to spend a lot of years in studying graphic designing because there are lots of ways you can learn graphic designers out there. However, if you learn it from school, it makes you professional at it. So again, more people will prefer you in designing things for them because you are professional at it. You learn it from school rather than just learning it yourself. Make sense? All right? So that's why still it is encouraged to learn graphic designing at school just like what you are doing right now. Although all of these are not really necessary in starting to learn graphic designing, having these abilities will give you edge and easier access to getting better output. Okay? So, although you don't necessarily have to be good at drawing, you don't need to spend a lot of money for expensive equipments, you don't need to spend a lot of years in studying, but having these three will give you more edge in learning this easier. Okay? So, if you are good at drawing, if you can spend more money for buying expensive equipments, and if you will spend more time uh, in studying, then it will enhance your abilities in designing much easier. Okay? However, here are the things every graphic designer must have to become effective. First, you need a portfolio. What is a portfolio? A portfolio is an organized collection of selected works of a designer. Most companies will prefer portfolios more when hiring graphic designers instead of any verbal background checking. The portfolio will show how talented the designer is, whom he or she worked with, and how long has he or she been doing graphic designing. Okay, this is very important, especially when applying graphic designing jobs online. Okay, the first requirement that they will ask, or any client will ask, is your portfolio, the collection of your works from the past, um, perhaps years or previously. Okay, so again, so for now, make sure before you apply, whenever you're already good in designing, before you apply, you have to make sure to collect the works that you've already done. You have while you're practicing. That way, the clients will check your portfolio and they will prefer it more than what you are saying. Okay? So when ka nga mahihay kung mo design, ma'am, sir, I'm very good in designing. However, you don't have any proof if you really are. Okay? That's why you need a portfolio. Second, you need visual thinking skills. Again, while graphic designing is more about visual problem solving than just mere designing, being able to think visually and translate it into an output is one of the most important keys to become a good designer. Okay? Again, it's not about the drawing, it's not about the colors and everything else. It's about being able to think visually. How are you going to fix, how are you going to solve any visual problems? And then lastly, you need to speak Adobe. Okay? Adobe editing software is currently the industry standard when it comes to graphic designing. Well, it really means you will focus only on Adobe. It is very important if you know at least one Adobe editing software and be very good at it. However, there are lots of photo editing software available in the market, and if you happen to know one, might as well be expert at it. Now, this does not necessarily have to that you should only learn Adobe. There are lots of photo editing software out there, but let's understand that Adobe is the industry standard. This is what most company wants you to learn. Okay, so when you say you need to speak Adobe, you have to learn at least one Adobe photo thing or editing softwares, and you have to be very good at it. And that way, you'll be complying to the industry standard, right? Okay, so again, before I'm only good at Photoshop. I'm not really good in Adobe Illustrator and every other Adobe Photoshop, any Adobe editing softwares. But again, if you know one Adobe software, might as well be very good at it. Okay, knowing one editing software is better than knowing lots but not really good at it, diba? Okay, so and last, this is gonna be the last lesson. What do graphic designers do? With the technology getting more digitized than before, the numbers of jobs that requires graphic designing skills are constantly expanding. Here are some of the works for graphics designers. So we have director, art director, package designer, art production manager, brand ID developer, visual image developer, broadcast designer, logo designer, visual journalist, interface designer, web designer, multimedia developer, illustrator, content developer. All right, so these are some of the jobs that you will get, or basically the areas for graphics design. These are just some of the countless number of jobs a graphic designer can do. With the help of this course, you can be one of them and choose the job that fits your preference. Okay, so there are tons of works out there where you can apply if you learn graphic designing. Okay, so that's why I encourage everybody. Maybe this is not the course that you this is not exactly the course that you are rooting for, information technology or computer science, but I want to encourage you that because I just want to encourage you, it's because there are tons of works out there that requires graphic designing skills. Okay, so you as information technology student, you as computer science student, you already have the edge in learning it through school. Okay, so I encourage everybody to, although this is just a course, this is not your core subject. I encourage everybody to still try to keep up. Maybe you don't really you're not really interested in graphic designing, but I encourage you to be. It's because again there are tons of works out there that you can apply for. All right, so that will be all for today. Thank you so much for making this far of the video. To assess your learning from this class, not orientation, kindly fill up this form. Okay, I'm gonna be posting the link once I've already posted this class through our Facebook group. Or you can also just click this link once I already uploaded a copy of this presentation file. Again, the deadline will be Wednesday, April 21st, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. Okay, and as for the assignment, please check our Google Classroom. It will be posted later on today. The deadline will be Wednesday, April 21st, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. That's going to be exactly 1 week from today. All right. So to give you an idea, the assignment is all about, I'll be showing you a photo and you are going to explain what the designer is trying to convey. That is going to be the first part of this class. All right. I'm going to be showing you photos or graphic designs, and it's up to you to explain how the picture convey the message, or what makes it pleasing to the eye, gets the attention, and conveys the message. That's it. All right, so that's gonna be your assignment, and it will be posted right after this class. All right, again, the deadline will be Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. All right, again, that will be all for today. Thank you so much. Keep yourself safe. God bless. See you on our next class.